I'm sure many of you are aware of. Actually, I'm not sure if many of you are aware of this, but in Niagara region, the public health authority there is saying how children can get jabs without parental consent, which that should concern every parent. So I'm gonna pull up an article right now that explains it all. So this is from True North. It says Niagara region says children can be jabbed without parents' consent. It says guidance released by Niagara Region Public Health claims that children can be jabbed without their parents' consent under the Healthcare Consent Act. Be advised that there's no minimum age to provide consent. This means that your child can consent to be jabbed without parental consent. And notice how the word "without" is in bold. That's what they said. Then it says, according to Niagara Region Public Health, children can consent to getting jabbed as long as they're informed and the consent is offered voluntarily. The statement defines a person who is able to give consent as someone who understands information that's important to making a decision concerning jabs and who understands the consequence of a decision or lack of decision. This information was presented on a general jab guidance page. True North has reached out to Niagara Region Public Health for comment and clarification, but did not hear back in time for publication. In a Twitter post on Tuesday morning, Niagara Region Public Health claimed there was misinformation being shared regarding parental consent and jabs, despite the claims originating on their website. Here's the tweet from Niagara Region the public health. It says, we've learned information of misinformation being shared that children aged 5 to 11 will be jabbed at school without parent/legal guardian consent. This is not true, and our public health is working closely with families to obtain informed consent to jab children 5 to 11. On Tuesday, public health officials in the region will be hosting a virtual town hall on jabbing children from 5 to 11 years old. While most children with COVID-19 have mild symptoms or none at all, some children with COVID-19 can get very sick, states Niagara Region Public Health. Jabbing children will help to reduce the number of cases of COVID-19. The jab is shown in clinical trials to prevent symptomatic illness in youth. Well, well, these jabs are they're still going through. They're not expect the clinical trials for these jabs are not expected to be complete until 2023, I think. So it's just 2 years away from now. So I don't know why there's no long-term data to show that these jobs are safe as they claim to be. So the fact that they're trying to force kids to take these COVID jabs, it should concern every parent out there. So uh, then it says, with regard to parental consent, Niagara Region Public Health states that it is preferred that children get their jab with a parent or legal guardian present at the clinic. If necessary, children can go with an alternative caregiver to get jabbed. According to official government statistics, 6 children under the age of 15 have died from COVID-19 since the pandemic began last year. There were 6 COVID-related deaths reported in Canada among individuals between 0 and 14 years old. Health Canada spokesperson Anne Genier told Blacklock's reporter. Health Canada data also shows that only 2% of those hospitalized for COVID-19 were under the age of 20. So that's the end of the article. And here it says the Niagara Region Police says parental consent required for jabbing. So I think this is probably an updated story, maybe. So it says Niagara Region says parental consent required for jabbing 5 to 11-year-olds. Niagara Region Public Health has changed a webpage saying parental consent is now required for jabs under Ontario law and says it will collect a parental consent before jabbing any children aged 5 through 11 for COVID-19. As originally reported by True North, the Niagara Region webpage about jabs said parental consent was not required. So this is what they originally said. And then it says under the Healthcare Consent Act, be advised that there's no minimum age to provide consent. This means that your child can consent to be jabbed without parental consent, the webpage claimed. So this is what the Niagara Region public health first said, and I guess because of pressure. And then it says, following a backlash on social media, Niagara Region Public Health has since updated its website to indicate that parental consent is required for COVID-19 jabs for kids between 5 to 11 years of age. Yeah, so here it says, yeah, so because of backlash, they had to change their rules or their policy or whatever. So now they're saying now that kids they need parental consent in order to get the job, whereas before they were saying how kids didn't need the consent of the parents. So yeah, so they only changed it because of pressure. Otherwise, like they would have just kept the original rule in place. And it says for information on consent about COVID-19 jabs in children and youth, visit COVID-19 jab in children and youth. Niagara Region Public Health requires parental/guardian consent for children 5 to 11 years of age for the COVID-19 jab. The website now says. Then it says on Tuesday, Niagara Region's official Twitter account claimed that misinformation was being shared about jabbing children from 5 to 11, despite the information originating on their website. An archived version of Niagara Region's page still contains the statement in its original form. Yesterday, Niagara Region Public Health held a virtual town hall for parents who want to learn more information on jabbing their kids against COVID-19. Jabbing children will help to reduce the number of cases of COVID-19. The jab is shown in clinical trials to prevent symptomatic illness in youth. With regard to parental consent, Niagara Region Public Health states that it is preferred that children get their jab with a parent or legal guardian present at the clinic. If necessary, children can go with an alternative caregiver to get jabbed. According to Health Canada, only 2% of those hospitalized for COVID-19 were under the age of 20, and 6 COVID-related deaths have been reported among those under the age of 15. So that's the end of this article, and I'm gonna pull up another article that's talks about this last paragraph here. So I'm gonna close that now. Now I'm gonna pull up another article that talks about the 6 deaths from COVID-19. So so here it is. It says 6 COVID-19 deaths among kids under 15 in Canada. As the Canadian government prepares to launch a jab campaign targeting children as young as 5, Health Canada has revealed that 6 kids under the age of 15 have died from the virus. The number was revealed in a statement given to Blacklock's reporter. There were 6 COVID-related deaths reported in Canada among individuals between 0 and 14 years old, Health Canada spokesperson Anne Ginny told the outlet. On November 19th, the department approved the Pfizer-BioNTech jab for kids as young as 5 after a month-long review period. The Public Health Agency of Canada stated that it is probably going to be quite difficult to convince Canadians to jab their young children. Well, yeah, I'm sure it is. Why would any parent want to jab their kids if they're at if they, if they're at no risk of suffering from the virus or like from COVID? So yeah, like any why would any parent want to like so yeah, of course it's going to be difficult, especially if the parents are well aware of how like kids are at little to no risk of dying from COVID. So yeah, then it says there are parts of the country that are still under jab, said Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Teresa Tam. We do know parents who are unjabbed. It's probably going to be quite difficult to convince them their kids need to be jabbed. As explained by True North founder Candace Malcolm, the data doesn't back up the government's child jab strategy. According to Health Canada statistics, only 2% of those hospitalized for COVID 19 were under the age of 20. To date, there have only been 17 COVID-related deaths in Canada when including children and teenagers. The science shows us that COVID is not a deadly virus for kids, writes Malcolm. So why are we going into overdrive with protective measures for kids? Mask mandates at schools, rules preventing kids from talking during their lunch break, social distancing measures, and at-home virtual learning. All of these have negative impacts on a child's ability to communicate, learn, and enjoy their precious childhoods. Okay, so that's the end of this article, but um, yeah, but over here, there's another link I'm gonna click on as I think as like it's a more expanded version of like what Candace Malcolm says here. So I think this is just a short version of what she says. So I'm gonna click on this link here. So this is from the Toronto Sun. It's from Candace Malcolm. It says, "Let's look at the actual numbers about kids and COVID." So now that the next jab push will be targeting children aged 5 to 11. Let's look at the actual numbers for that age group. The following figures come from Health Canada's comprehensive database on COVID 19 dating back to early 2020. There have now been a total of 1.68 million cases and 28,838 deaths. According to Alberta's chief medical officer, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, COVID deaths include cases where COVID was thought to be the primary or secondary factor contributing to death. According to a Stats Canada report, 90% of COVID deaths list a secondary cause on the death certificate, most commonly Alzheimer's, chronic heart disease, or dementia. Of the 1.68 million COVID cases to date, the most infected age group are those under the age of 12, under the age of 20. There have been approximately 350,000 cases in this age cohort, making up 21% of all cases. But despite experiencing the highest numbers of COVID cases, Canadians aged 0 to 19 experienced the lowest hospitalization rate. Only 2% of those hospitalized for COVID 19 are among those under 20. Compare this to my age bracket, 30-39, with 7.5% hospitalization. My mother's age bracket, 60 to 69, with 17.7% hospitalization. Or my grandmother's age bracket, 80 plus, with 25% hospitalization. Of the 350,000 cases for Canadians under 20, only 1,824 have been hospitalized. We also know that a significant number of these were incidental hospitalizations. So note this word. Um, oh, it's actually a link. So incidental hospitalizations, meaning that they went to hospital because they were suffering from something completely unrelated, but happened to test positive for the virus during routine screening. So despite having the most exposure to COVID, young Canadians are not suffering the same health outcomes as older populations. When it comes to the mortality rate in this age group, the facts are clear. It's basically nil. Since the start of the pandemic, there have been 17 COVID related deaths in Canada among children and teenagers. So there have been 17 COVID related deaths in Canada among children and teenagers. Not 17,000, not 1,700, just 17. So then it says that makes up 0.1% of all COVID deaths in Canada. The COVID case fatality rate for Canadians under the age of 20, therefore, is 0.002%. In other words, COVID is not a threat to kids. It wouldn't even make the list of the top 10 causes of death for children. And notably, the numbers show that a fully jabbed adult is still at a much greater risk of being hospitalized or dying from COVID than an unjabbed child. So this part here, um, it says, and this part here it says, and notably, numbers show that a fully jabbed adult is still at a much greater risk of being hospitalized or dying from COVID than an unjabbed child. So researchers have known this since the early days of the pandemic. There's a growing body of literature that is giving us some experience with that COVID 19, with what COVID 19 looks like in children, which, as we're learning, is very different than what COVID 19 looks like in adults. American pediatric infectious disease physician Dr. Jennifer Schuster said in June 2020. Science shows us that COVID is not a deadly virus for kids. So, why are we going into overdrive with protective measures for kids? Mask mandates at schools, rules preventing kids from talking during their lunch break, social distancing measures, and at home virtual learn virtual learning. All of these have negative impacts on a child's ability to communicate, learn, and enjoy their precious childhoods. Readers of this column will know that Alberta recently announced its youngest COVID victim, a 14-year-old boy. However, the boy's family clarified that he had tragically died of stage 4 brain cancer, not COVID. Alberta retracted this information and said they will now only announce a COVID death in a young person after an investigation has taken place. Canadian parents need to know these facts and more as they assess the various heavy handed measures that are being placed upon our kids. So I think that's the end of the article. Yeah, it's the end of the article. So, so yeah, like parents need to like understand this type of stuff because a lot of them they just like go along with whatever the government or the public health authorities say all the time, even if they're wrong. But I guess a lot of parents think that like these public health officers or whatever you call them, like they think that they know what's best or what's better, so they'll just take whatever they say at face value and not like question anything, which 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 is like concerning because these are like these are like children that are being robbed of their ability to like do anything, whether it's like learning or being able to like communicate or socialize with their friends at school. Like they're not able to do any of that as a result of these like mask and jab mandates. So it's like parents like you people really need to start waking the f up because otherwise like this isn't gonna stop. It's not gonna get any better unless you parents start like speaking out against this or like taking a stand against all this like unlawful and illegal stuff being pushed on the kids. So um yeah, like so that's the end of the article, so I can close that now. So yeah, like parents, like you people need to understand that it's the health of your children that's at risk with all these like mandates, whether it has to do with the masks and jabs, as as they're being robbed of an education right now if with all these like rules and all that. So and now like and now like they want to like and now like the government they want kids like between like ages 5 to 11 to get the jab. So this stuff should really concern you as like these jobs they aren't like they're still going through clinical trials. So like there's no like data to show that these jobs are safe. So so yeah, if you're taking these COVID jabs, you're pretty much just participating in an experiment as no data to like show how effective these jobs are. So like if you parents are forcing your kids to like get these jobs, then know that you are going to be at fault. Like you'll be the ones responsible if your kids suffer any type of like problems after they get the jab, or like in the worst case, like if they die, which I hope not, but if that happens, then like you parents will be the ones responsible, as you were the ones that didn't do anything to stop it, or like you forced your kids to get the jab because I don't know, like the government said so or school said so. So yeah, like you parents like you parents need to start pushing back against this stuff and start questioning it too, as this is the lives of your children that are are like at risk with all these like mandates. So like I know in the United States, like parents in the United States, they're like speaking out against like the critical race theory that's being taught in the schools. So and apparently like that's so much of a threat that like the FBI counterterrorism unit is investigating parents like speaking out against like what's being taught in the schools. So yeah, like yeah, like like if the parents like started speaking out, then yeah, like they would like force like the government to like reverse their policies or these mandates that they're forcing on their kids, like as in one of the articles I showed earlier where it said how the Niagara Region Public Health had to like change their policy or something on kids like needing parental consent to get the job. So like if more parents like start pushing back against these unlawful mandates, then I'm sure like the government they'd have to either drop or at the very least reverse their stance on these like job policies. So yeah, like I really hope like Canadians start like pushing back against this stuff, especially like Canadian parents, as like I don't like there are like they are, but it's not like a lot. It's not like a lot of parents that are doing it, but like hopefully more and more parents start like pushing back against all these like unlawful mandates, and and yeah and yeah and Yeah, and also like it's the futures and lives that are at risk. So hopefully, like that'll give parents like a reason to like push to like question these like mandates and all that. So like I really hope that starts to happen. So that's everything I want to talk about, and be signing off now.